Welcome to another episode of Unthink Me.
Translation.
I'm James. I have nothing to share about myself that you can't find in my autobiography.
And my name's Adam. I'm a typical sperm.
And this is Unthink Me.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Today, I was thinking a little bit simulation theory, that we're all in a simulation. This is a popular concept. It's talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to talk a little bit about the personality and character of Neil deGrasse Tyson. So if that's what you came here for, you're going to get a little bit of that. If you like the video, you should give it a thumbs up. And if you like our channel, you should subscribe to our channel. And if you want to get in touch with us and members of the integral community, go ahead and join that Discord. We should have links down in the description. We hope to see you again. Thank you. I'm just Larry King, and we're going to take it now. We're going to turn it over to the actual news presenter. I'm not the real presenter. The real presenter is on his way. He's here. He's here now in the studio. Here he comes. He's sitting down.
It seems like everyone's kind of in the dark here that trans fats are actually good for you.
We're back. It's Larry King, and we've got a special guest here, Salman Rushdie. Go ahead. I don't want to take any of your time.
Chuck, I've been public on the fact that I'm waiting for someone to convince me that we don't live in a simulation.
I've heard you say it.
The arguments put forth have been quite convincing to me. And most of the best arguments are traceable to a guy named Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at the University of Oxford.
Okay.
Here's the argument.
Nick, bullshit.
I want to start right away.
Yeah.
He's wearing like a zip-up pullover under a button-up shirt, and he has only the button-up shirt rolled up. I fucking love it.
I needed you to explain that to me, actually. I can't just look at it and see what's happening. It doesn't check out. You love it. That looks so uncomfortable. That looks so
It is. Oh, that
miserable.
is bold.
Sheesh. He's probably sweating like a hog in there.
Maybe it's...
He got him playing the piano. Shut up, Happy.
Do you think it's branded, and that's why he had to put something over it last minute?
It's like, I like titties or something.
Well, it's probably not, since it's Neil, but it's Star Lab.
Wait, I thought
Like,
he specifically had an I like titties scandal.
It was a Me Too thing?
Am I wrong? I mean, I might be. Yeah, I think so. I think I might be completely wrong, but
No clue. I don't know. I don't follow him that closely.
the second season of science docu-series Cosmos won't premiere on March 3rd, as previously announced, because of the ongoing investigation into sexual misconduct allegations. But what are they? Sexual misconduct. I mean. Neil deGrasse Tyson was accused of sexual misconduct by 4 women, keeping all his jobs. Okay, what is it? It's a confidential personal matter. There will be no further statements by the museum. More questions than answers. I'll say, okay. Physics and astronomy professor Caitlin Allers says that Tyson tried to look at her tattoo under her dress and touched her in a way that made her uncomfortable at a party. Where was the tattoo? It was under her dress. But where? Okay, all right. I'm just asking the questions. That's a private matter.
Was it like a titty tattoo, or is it like a small of the back tattoo, and he went from the bottom up?
Yeah, like maybe it was it was an open back, and he just had to kind of like, hey, could I see your tattoo? Like, it's not seeing any of the holy jewels.
Without knowing any of the facts.
Well, they won't tell us.
Yeah, she felt some kind of way, which lends credence to her thing, whether it was intentional or accidental. She still felt some kind of way, so there's some credence there.
So that was Allers. Amit, meanwhile, says that during a visit to Tyson's apartment when the two were astronomy graduates, Tyson offered her a drink of water. The next thing she knew, he was performing oral sex on her.
That's not what's funny. I was laughing at your facial expressions.
Yeah. Note to the audience, that was in response to this callback joke of opening your eyes wide a moment after something startling while looking sideways. Then he climbed on top of her and began penetrating her, she said, before she passed out again. Oh, is she trying to imply that the drink of water may have been laced?
Mm-hmm.
That may be. Okay. Okay. Is there a third and fourth? There's a lot of information besides the stuff that I want. There's race gets brought into it a fair amount. Allegations, 4 women. Doesn't sound like a definitive answer has been made. I'm sure it was damaging to his reputation because first thing Adam's gonna know about this guy is that you always look like a slime because I'm saying this and then it turns out he's super guilty and there was like 8 other women. Sure. But I'm like, this is a justice system where you're innocent till proven guilty. I don't know. I don't know what happened. And as the public, that doesn't really factor into much other than I'm like, oh, isn't Neil deGrasse, like, doesn't he have sexual allegations against him? And then I was
that is exactly what you said.
Anyways, not telling anybody how to think. I'm just kind of thinking my own way through it, That's a point. And we've noticed his shirt and his scandal.
Well, I mean, while you were looking all that stuff up, I don't know if this is his show or someone else's, but there is a bobblehead of him here.
Oh, I don't know. Is it the chairman of Nintendo?
The bobblehead?
Is it him?
Yes.
That sucks. It's shitty.
And then the I'm Not a Robot can. It makes me feel like we're in something of his. That all of the science references here, and then the bobblehead of him. It would be a little weird to fangirl having Neil on and then having his bobblehead here. It may be. But whoever's apartment this is, studio or whatever,
I'm getting home office out of this.
They don't have enough shelf space. Like they're prominently showing off these like magazines, records over here. Then everything else is really, really tightly cluttered together. And then this pile of clothes next to it is what's driving me insane. Either get rid of them or find a space for them. Nothing should be piled anywhere
That's for
ever.
sure. They didn't mean they put all of the space and Neil knickknacks on the shelf and around him. So I think we're going to get our best mileage out of when he's in someone else's show.
I mean, we're 23 seconds in, and this background's going to destroy the rest of this video for me.
Got it.
You've spent time facing the books that are relevant to your guest and putting a bobblehead out, but you didn't pick up this stack of clothes?
They didn't think about it. They probably thought that was too low.
Or it's so messy all the time that they have those like hoarder blinders where you don't even like see piles anymore.
Is he on the autism spectrum?
I have no idea. I can only imagine most astrophysicists are.
It would be very mild, but like a lot of this stuff does kind of come off that way. Like wearing weird shirt stack and like not caring that like somebody's coat. Like you'd at least
backwards
fold it
layering
over once, and so it was like a flat piece on the floor. But this is just like a toss it there. This is like a from feet away toss to the.
He may have been wearing like a blazer and an overcoat and tossed them over there to be on the show.
He was getting hot. He was getting hot with all those shirts on.
I can only imagine he has like the low cut V Hanes shirt on under the third, like a third layer.
You would want to.
All right, we're 23 seconds in and like an hour into this. Let's go.
Let's rock.
Computing power is growing rapidly.
Right.
We create simulations of worlds. We have video games with characters that are inside the video game.
Right.
Imagine a day where you can simulate a world so perfectly with life forms, humans, so well that you can recreate every single neurosynaptic thought you could have, but now you're in the simulation on the computer.
What
right. I think he's saying using like a neural net.
What a weird way
and
to put
actually
that, though.
creating synapses, so you would have sensory. You could
put
smell,
the self
hear,
on the wires.
feel. Yeah.
You put the wires on the computer. Self in the computer.
The wires go, like a neural net goes on you, and then the wires go to the computer, and the computer is recreating an environment. But because
taking
you have
microtransactions of your energy at every node.
No, vice versa. Inputting.
Well, no, I'm saying for the drainage, for the battery powering of the system.
The bit mining of the whole thing? Like where's the profit come from?
What's my profit? Yeah, I'm going to sap your blood Every time I create an experience for you, I get a little bit more of your.
I suppose data mining, maybe?
Oh, that's when they're extracting, they're inceptioning info from you. Well, look, I wanted to stop the tape anyways. This is where they start. And you can kind of tell you're dealing with mythology when it has a specific flow to it.
Okay.
Truths usually have a bunch of different ways to arrive at them. But whenever you hear the simulation theory, there's kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like a method to explaining it. Because if you just said, like, I think this is like kind of like a video game where it's a fake, then people would be like, I don't know. So you build up this case for it. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of suspicious, like in a mythology sense. Video games are not a simulation of reality. They're not intended to be a simulation. They're deliberately simplified. Not only simplified, but they're designed to be more pleasurable than experience. That's the intended goal of it. There are rules. That's what makes it fun, is the interplay between the gamer and the developer. You're trying to get through their rules or around their rules. They're trying to stop you from doing something. So there's a story and there's an interplay. It isn't just an experience of a world. That's not what you do. So I feel like the analogy to a video game is misleading. It's like inappropriate in a lot of ways. Like video games are like life. Life is not like a video game.
Well, I think the argument is strengthened on the video game part because that would be the industry that would want to excel this technology. Immersive gaming, like the next big thing, is always really, really expensive, and there's a line out the door for it. When video games became VR, it was super fucking expensive. The video game avenue is, that's probably who's developing like sensory inputting video games. So you can there's like a breeze in the air. So when I shoot my arrow into the king's knee, I have to take windage into an account. Oh yeah, we're approaching the tavern, which is next to a stable, and it's inputting in this neural net that I should be smelling like manure and hay and beer wort.
My main point is that in all those cases, you're doing something fun that you wouldn't do in real life. Like that's you're getting an experience that you wouldn't really otherwise have. Right. So if they continue in that trend, even to the point where it's like not only like realistic to fool your eyes, but your entire sensory apparatus is fooled by this, I mean, you immediately would go, okay, it's going to be sex. It's going to be like jumping off of buildings and like being chased by ghosts. It's not going to be like sitting in your room waiting for a dentist appointment.
That isn't what it's going to be. But my argument for the video game explanation, which is just how he kicked it off. I mean, we're camping at 46 seconds here. Kicked it off for video games because I do believe that if this were to become a thing, that's the industry that would be excelling this knowledge. Maybe neuroscientists somewhere are trying to figure out some sort of way to like coax you out of a long-term coma through this, but they don't have the budget that the video game industry does. I don't believe that you'd be optionally inserting yourself into the matrix as an NPC. I think that's where the bulk of the research and development to be able to do that would be from video games. We have to find where the profit is to who's going to actually plug you into a machine and trick you into think that you're in some sort of simulation. For what benefit? Heat? Are we turning heat into electricity? What sort of marketable item can I get by making you a vegetable unbeknownst to you?
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole argument hinges on the notion that because it can happen in this extrapolation theory, which is entirely speculative, because that can occur, we can hook people up to this, it did occur. There's a lot of stuff that can happen and just doesn't happen for reasons. Principally, who benefits from switching out one reality for another that's completely convincing? You know, who gets anything out of that? this
Well,
gets
apparently
into
Neil back in college. Oh,
my main thesis here, I guess, because we've kind of arrived at it, is
okay.
the word simulation.
Yes.
It implies that everything we know and experience ever, forever, at all, is within a meta reality that has rules, I should assume. Are they the same rules? Are they different rules? Do they look like people? If not, why did they make people? If so, we're basically talking about theology at that point. If it's not people, it's like gods, then all
aliens.
you've done is reiterated the idea that like a creator made our world as a way to test us or to teach us, or, this is just religion. Because we don't know why we're here, so, there must be a reason we're here. Oh, I know. People like us made us here for reasons. Okay, why? Because they could. That sounds like logic, but it just isn't. I mean, everything that could be isn't. I mean, it's not a criteria of existence that, like, that could be a thing. Wouldn't it be interesting? Couldn't
it be possible? You've given me 2 reasons now to have Adam comatose in a simulation, believing he's living his life, but not in the physical world. 1, some sort of profit to be made somewhere, or resource gain, heat, electricity, whatever. Maybe you're being eaten slowly. 2 would be compassion. Like, the world is so fucked that this is a sweet release and gives you at least a little bit of something while you're alive. That's such a burden.
Like, we're all geriatrics, like on a 100-year journey across space in cryo chambers. Like, there's
something like that. What
storage? We're storing ourselves.
Yeah, long-term storage, keeping the mind active so that when we reach Uranus, that there's still brain activity when we get there. But what a resource drain.
I mean, I guess, okay, if we're going that route, I guess it's to keep us limber, to keep our parts
mentally limber.
Going.
Because your body's not moving. It's a simulation.
Yeah.
I do want to point out a couple more background things real quick before we move on. Black hole lunchbox under his elbow here. I think this is a lightsaber up on the top shelf next to a sextant. Who the hell would have a giant canvas painting of a rocket other than Neil? And then a brick. Okay. It's just holding it down.
Enough computing power to imbue the Sims inside of the program with all of the human traits that we possess now.
Correct. Not only our human traits, but the world.
But the world.
The world itself.
Right.
And you don't have to have all the world existing there at all times.
Right.
That might be an unrealistic amount of computing power.
Right.
You just need
enough of the world that they see around them.
That they see around them. There's a flag that goes up in the programmer, and they say, need more Earth. So they put Earth beneath you while you can keep digging.
It's like the Truman Show.
Yeah, well, or doesn't Minecraft, you can build
or
stuff?
Minecraft.
Right.
Oh, that is Minecraft.
Right, okay.
God, that guy's a brilliant genius. Maybe that's why we can't travel faster than the speed of light, because if we could, we'd be able to get to another galaxy
before they could program
that galaxy. Oh,
snap.
So the programmer put in that limit.
Put in the limit.
Because that's the fastest they can get.
We can't program fast enough.
Programming and the speed of light would be perception based, and if you're already plugged into this thing, they could just have a loading window that you're unaware of. Just freeze the whole simulation until it loads. Like that's pretty easy.
I feel like you can fix that too. You could patch that pretty easily, I should think.
That's good.
Go ahead.
That's good, Chuck.
All right.
So let me finish this. So now that world evolves and they develop computing power.
Right.
And they say, we want to play video games.
So now we're going to make a world.
So then they make a world and they have sufficient computing power that they invent to create a whole universe within their computers.
Okay.
And then
they make a world.
And then they make a world all the way on down.
Right.
It could be hundreds, thousands, billions.
Are you upset that he stopped at billions and got lost on what the next numbers would be?
So this is one of the main things that bothers me. He'll make like a really banal point that everyone knows, and he'll really stress it hard. He'll be like, the sun is really, really big. It's like so big. It's like like you can't even start to. Yeah, everyone knows that, and
Well,
he's like shouting at me, like quit shouting at. Oh well.
This is the part where I'm talking about the professorial
Oh my god.
way. Before I move to my next point, I need to make sure that the idiot who never asks a question and always gets an F on every one of my tests understands the size of the sun. But I'm pandering to the lowest common denominator because I get paid more if my whole class passes.
Yeah, we agree.
This is the professor thing that I'm talking about.
So I feel talked down to by pandering, and I mean,
people
he's like shouting at me.
You and I and others on our channel do understand more than I feel like the average person. He's not even talking to the average person. He's talking to the below average person and trying to catch them up so they can be a part of this. I've done it in classes myself, and I do feel like I'm pandering. And then after the class is over, one or two, maybe more people will come up like, oh yeah, I never thought about how big the sun was until you like camped on it for 3 minutes. Like, okay, you're fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I don't say that to them.
I mean, all right. Okay.
But
so we agree on that.
Of the 50 other people in the class, like no one, they're like, man, you really talked about how big the sun was and that took forever.
Certainly, like his guest isn't it? Like the guest is playing along really well. He's just kind of he's mirroring the same
comedian,
sort of thing.
right? It seems familiar.
That's what I mean. They both seem like entertainers.
Yeah,
like more. He's very like entertaining, but he's not excellent at entertaining. He's just like good at it. He's like pretty good at it. Okay.
Neil is, or the other guy?
Neil's quite good.
I don't know the other guy's name, but he's seems familiar.
He's host man. Also. Keep your eye out for this, all right? Neil will set up a point. He'll be like, and here's why I'm going to tell you this. Or he'll be like, now watch me finish this. You know, he'll say something like really cocky where he's setting up what he's going to say, and then he'll just keep like saying the same thing he was saying a minute ago, but like more forcibly. I hate because the setups are for something. It's not just fluff. You know, if somebody says like, dude, let me tell you something right now. That has meaning. That's an important thing. You don't say something pointless after saying that, you know? I
feel like this is also a professorial thing because after you've done teaching for a long time, and picture, put yourself in a simulation where you're teaching
everybody
guitar.
Become a professor and James will just forgive you for all of your quirks.
Well, I'll get to it. And it is a quirk that's not so flattering, but it is a real thing that develops. When you are a guitar teacher, when you're teaching someone guitar who's intermediate, and you're trying to make a point, and they keep talking over you, and you're trying to make a point, and then you make the point just because it's like a sneeze that never happened. Like you just have to get it out because I'm going to be I'm going to be stuck on that until I finish my thought. Does that never happen to you?
That's ADHD.
Oh, okay. I'm sold. All right, got it.
No, I mean, yeah, it's a thing. I just always try to put myself.
It's not a flattering. You're right. It's not a flattering thing, but I know several people who I look up to as mentors that if they're telling me some sort of theory that I'm already very well versed in, and I start to go beyond where the theory ends or take it in a tangent that I actually am interested in, they'll come back and talk over to finish their presentation of the initial theory that we both know very well. I'm a little more tolerant to that because I've caught myself doing it. And it's just that it's that sneeze that never happened. It's just like, we just wish it would have finished.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you have that and you just like swallow it. You just like, okay, fuck that. Stop.
As the student, when a mentor is doing this to me, yeah, I do have to recognize this as a character flaw of their teaching habits and stifle my own sneeze to let them finish their statement.
My idea of like a good teacher, I had teachers that were like funny and entertaining like him, but they weren't like my favorites. I like when teachers give you the benefit of the doubt. Like they'll go, okay, I'm going to over explain this because it's really important, but I know you guys get this, that kind of attitude.
Were those 101 classes?
Any really, like, I mean, it changes from like a 5-year-old to college, but it's like a spirit that persists through the whole thing. Like you treat them like they're a little more knowledgeable and mature than they are. You're like, I know you already know this, but check this out. And they're just kind of like, yeah, I already know. It just kind of creates a rapport where it's like, we're just exploring this together, not like, now you need to listen to this point right now because this point is the main thing. Is okay, what is it? I'll be the judge of that, sir. But I'd be like, okay, check this out. This is kind of a fact that might actually be interesting to you. Caring about the other person's existence.
I feel like this is where Neil is falling apart, and what you're honing in on, and I've been guilty myself. He's a lecturer, and when you're put one-on-one, like you're not ready for interaction. You were ready to like just have a monologue for an hour, and then someone comes in, and you can't allow that to happen because then you'll lose your train of thought.
Yeah.
That's I get it.
Get performance based, like because he's here in this situation, he's kind of just like lurching. Yeah, that's totally forgivable. I don't know. It's like he's a lot of people think of him as like the super badass dude, and I'm like
badass, like black
like
leather
he makes
duster
really great
badass,
point.
or?
Like he owns people in debates, and he like knows his shit about everything, and he's quippy. Like I don't really find that's what I mean by badass. Badass as an influencer, as a internet character.
Okay.
I guess he's bringing.
I
don't really know what effect he has on the average Joe, and I think that's where I'm lacking. I just get recommended a lot of videos of his, and I go like, "Oh, that's an interesting topic," and then I watch it, and he like shouts at me, and I feel like he sets it up like, "Okay, now I'm going to answer that question," and then like I wait a while, and I'm like, "Wait, he didn't answer that question exactly."
Okay,
it didn't really happen. He specifically said he would, and now I'm sitting.
I don't get fed a lot of his stuff. I don't watch a lot of the media that feeds you stuff. Not because I'm better than anyone else. I just don't watch those things very often. I've got shit to do. I don't think he brings up points that any other physicist would not bring up. I think he just has the platform of fame to make them more broad. I don't think he has like
I think so.
groundbreaking theories that I know of, but he does bring theory to the public. I think that's
he's
neat.
a science guy. He's a successful and good science guy, I would say, all around. It's more his like influencer thing that bothers me. Like I think that as a host of like Cosmos or whatever, I'm guessing, quite good. Like that's what you want to do with a guy like him. Like in today's world, though, there's this big thing where you are also like an online personality and you go and talk on shows. You like debate, like is the Bible true? He's does those debates a lot, so that's kind of where they net me into that. It's really unpleasant because it's like I'm on your side. Like the points you're making, I'm like, oh, it's that point. Oh, okay, it's that point. But it's like really condescending, and it's not helpful. It's not like that debate did not help anyone's perception of the situation. Science guys kind of go this way when they become an influencer. Like who's an influencer turned science guy turned influencer that's like that I dig? I don't think I know of any. I think let's just stay science guys.
Dr. Michio Kaku?
Ooh. Oh, he's like
white, like shoulder length, straight white hair, and he's just like
serial. Yeah. He's like
sometimes he's on
Neil.
Conspiracy theory stuff. Sometimes he's on legit stuff.
Which of these universes are you going to land in? The first one that's real, or the gazillion that are not?
Well, yeah.
Just statistically. There's something called Bayesian statistics where you're allowed to introduce information that you already have available to you, even if you didn't measure it to be true. So we establish the likelihood that one day we'll have the power to do this.
Right.
There's 1 in a zillion you're the real universe, and 999 zillion to 1
that's your simulation.
That convinced me.
All right, stop the tape.
Convinced.
If it follows logically that because it's possible we are in a simulation, then it also follows that because it's possible we're in a simulation of a simulation. And it also follows ad infinitum because in any particular simulation that could produce a simulation, it does, according to our logic. So we're not only in a simulation, we're in nth million times deep simulation of a simulation of a simulation of a simulation, if the logic holds. Is everyone in the simulation? Does anyone talk about this? Is it all of us? Or is it one of us? Or
in order to be in a simulation, something or someone
There's
has to
NPCs.
put you in it.
Yeah. Well,
you don't just
exterior. Yeah.
yeah. There has to be something exterior to
That's even more troubling. I mean, I just
physically
even mean,
put you in this thing. You're not just
is
born.
everyone in the world a participant, or are there some NPCs that don't have a human participant inside of them?
Well, that did bother me just a second ago. It didn't bother me. I didn't stop the tape, but he did say program has to build a little more dirt if you start digging, or it has to build a little more sky if you start flying.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you're the only one in it, in the majority of humanity, you're within visual proximity of someone else. So if we're all in a simulation, that all had to exist in, let's say, 100 yards around you. I know this is just an arbitrary number. 100-yard circle around you has to exist for your perception of the world. If you're living in New York City or Hong Kong or Tokyo, that all has to exist at one time because you're never more than 100 yards away from anyone ever. So what are you talking about? It has to create more. It had to be there for someone walking towards you. It's who's in this? Everyone, no one, just you. What's happening?
They basically just leave that unanswered. But I mean,
Completely
if you think about it, there's a lot of moral implications to the idea, I mean, of being the one in a video game. Like when I play a video game, I'm not exactly moral. Right. Yeah. you just kind of, whatever you want to get out of, because nobody else is in those guys I'm killing and stuff.
Well, if you were in the game and you die, it's okay. I had another guy, or I just go back to the last save point. If it's bubble bobble, and as soon as you let one of those bubbles not bobble, you start over at level 1. Now you have some stake in the game. When Kym is holding the reset button you're on level 98, you are like auctioning off everything you own to make sure Kym doesn't let go of that reset button, because I'm so close.
That was the best. God,
it's the worst.
I know. Well, it was. It really was terrible. It's funny how frantic you'd get about losing your progress in a game when
saving a game wasn't a thing. So in the simulation, the stake is it's not saved.
There's always a mistake
then you're going to act a little more morally.
Okay, so that's unaddressed, but
yeah,
as a science guy, it's like history of science bullshit. Like how do you formulate ideas about the world? And you have Occam's razor, which is it's not a rule. It doesn't have to be true, but it's like you find in nature that if you have to create a lot of extra stuff that you have no evidence for in order to justify an idea, it's usually wrong, or there's just something not correct about it. In the case where a thing is true, you usually don't really have to add anything. It's just kind of all out there on the table. That's usually...
You're making discoveries as you widen your scope.
There's no detectable difference between someone in a simulation or not,
okay,
unless they're going to talk about that. But it's like any simple, straightforward point you make like that, there's like some way that you can kind of work around it, but that's kind of how rationalizing works. If there is no evidence at all of a meta-reality, we should assume that there isn't one. It's a backwards logic that says, because there could be a simulation, there must be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, if there's a base reality and a simulation, then yes, this must be a simulation. But no, there might just not be a base reality, and that could just be incorrect, that one day we hook ourselves into a simulation. And
that is endless and propagating?
Yeah, that is endless and makes no logical sense as a simulation. It really, I want to be the baby who died. I want to be sent to Siberia at 11.
Right.
Cool game, dude. But you have to account for everyone in the world, so they're either a player or an NPC. There's no detectable difference in it. You'd be better off just saying okay, there's no players and NPCs. There's no evidence to justify simulation theory.
It's just a lack of evidence against it that we're leaning on here. Well, you can't prove that there isn't.
Yeah, it's an unfalsifiable claim.
What was that? This is a little off topic. What was that goddamn club in middle school at Washington where...
Was it the Five Aces? I'm just joking. It wasn't the Five Aces.
No, but I am well aware. It was Karen, Rachel, Katie, Jenny. Who am I missing?
The fifth ace. You always miss the fifth ace. Let's say Mary. I don't know any of these people, dude. I don't remember anything.
I'll say full names.
I remember
off camera.
Karen.
Science club / debate club / mathematics club. That was it was like all of the straight A students that were
The
in it.
douchebag gang.
Exactly. I went to one of them. The lowdown from Ben Fitch Fleischman, I will say his name out loud, was like the trick to this whole thing is like, if they never said you couldn't, you can. Oh, okay. So we can just,
right.
this is like the worst fucking thing ever.
Like
'Cause
nerdy
you
logic
don't have to
puzzles.
prove anything.
Prove you're a genius. Just solve this puzzle. And it's like, oh, it's like off the paper. It's not on the paper that I'm looking at. That's what you're saying.
So like the first,
you got it.
First thing in front of us, I broke. Get this out of here. Okay, shatter it. Like, oh, you can't do that. Well, you never said I couldn't do that, and it's out of it. So
That's how you play the game.
yeah, no, you can't do that. So it only applies when you want to use it. This whole simulation theory thing so far sounds involuntary.
Yeah, right.
Meaning there have to be an overseer who is, against your will or not, is putting you into this thing. There's like a third party here that's not in the simulation. Like, what's the point?
Someone has to benefit, or get some. Just to cap off Occam's razor, it's like you, in the case of simulation theory, you are inventing an entire meta reality and an entire rule system for our reality. That's like all that it really contributes to thinking.
Mirroring reality. So physics and time and those sort of things, right?
And
when you say rules,
whatever the rules of the simulation are, if it's engineered in some way to make it more exciting or pleasant or whatever that engineering is, whatever the simulation changes or doesn't change or keeps exactly the same, the thinker in the simulation theory has invented the meta-reality and all of those rules to explain things that have simple explanations that don't involve a meta-reality in a simulation. That's where Occam's razor you would abandon. It's like flat Earth is Occam's razor too. It's like you make an argument against it and they go, oh yeah, but no, that's because the entire NASA and the entire world is all conspiring together to fool you. And then, okay, but what about like whistleblowers? Wouldn't anyone? Well, no, we have an explanation for that too. And you're adding more and more stuff that there's no evidence for. That's when you're in a legend situation, when you're not dealing with a rational thought process. Yeah. It's not going like, what's wrong with this idea? It's not thinking critically.
Oh, okay.
It's going like, oh, like that could be, and then if I put that with this, then that, those go together nice. It's like creative. It's a creative idea that we live in a simulation.
Right.
It was an accomplishment to share that on the internet. But it concerns me because I think that like literally a lot of people are like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, they've solved it. Mankind now believes that we live in a simulation of reality because Elon Musk said so, or all these, all the podcasts said so. And here you have this real scientist, representing science, and he's like, I think there could be a simulation. Yeah, wouldn't it be interesting? Scientists don't think that.
Oh, yeah, I think what he's saying here is there's not enough evidence against to say it can't be.
Yeah.
And so, my mind's changed. It could exist. I don't think he's saying it 100% exists. So far, what I've gotten is he's saying there isn't evidence for or against, but the thought game is fun enough that, it could exist.
You're being rather generous, so you're putting him in a neutral here. As a science guy, where if that's his angle here, he's a teacher, he's a science guy, he does science, like that's his whole deal. It seems like his agenda, if there was an agenda, would be to point out that there are a lot of pseudoscientific theories of reality, and this is just another interesting one, a fun thought experiment.
Yeah.
But there's this weird tenor to the whole thing where, because of the way information's disseminated, like people really take simulation theory seriously, and again, however you interpret simulation theory is going to lead to moral implications.
I will point out here, it says DeGrasse Tyson explains the simulation hypothesis.
I was just begging for somebody
I bet you
to
were.
to give me an
Douglas.
argument that was cogent enough to undermine that entire reasoning, and I just came across one.
Uh-oh.
The doomsday calculation, and William Poundstone is a smart guy unto himself, and I am now convinced.
Now you're convinced.
Are you ready?
Okay, go ahead.
What do all these so here is what convinced me we're not in a simulation.
Okay.
Are you seated?
Okay.
All right. I'm seated.
Are you hold on.
I'm going to hold.
Because you
Ready,
might.
Neil? Blast off, Neil. Let's do it.
The statement. All right, I've got some news. Are you sitting down? It's because you might faint at receipt of this news.
He's like holding his
never
head
been-
right now.
Yeah, I've never been, and I like how the other guy's like about to like grip his finger like Papa Bear.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
I've
hold
never-
on. Are you ready? Take a deep breath. I'm going to tell you something right
Are you
now.
sitting down? Because you might faint.
There's that. Yeah.
What do all those simulated universes have in common?
They're bullshit.
There's simulations.
Got it.
They have the power to simulate
That's
themselves.
what I'm saying. There are simulations.
No, they have the power
Oh, he's
to
doing my
simulate
point.
themselves.
Right. Oh, okay. Yes.
That's what they all have in common.
make a simulation.
They have
So-
that power.
right, exactly.
To simulate themselves exactly.
Okay.
Do we have that power now?
No, we don't.
No, we don't. Because we don't have that power yet.
So we can't continue the chain.
So either we are the real one,
right,
or we're the one in the chain that's still evolving to try to then make a simulation within their own world.
Right.
So the odds of us being a simulation goes from a gazillion to one. I mean, to the likelihood of a
Right.
gazillion, all right?
It flips.
It flips 50-50.
Wow.
And I'm good with that. That changes my life
Yeah.
completely.
I missed
wasn't exactly
the second half because I fainted.
Oh, did you really?
No.
Oh, because of
I
what
wasn't
it
sitting
was
down
so
and hit my head.
startling. He makes this fucking weird point that we haven't made it yet. Like, who cares if we've made it yet? The whole point is that like it gets made later. That's the start of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't lead to we either live in the prime reality or some
One of
whatever
these
he's saying,
simulated
somewhere far down
realities.
the chain.
There's 50-50 that we're living in a reality trying to figure out how to simulate the simulated reality. Is that what was just said? He said we're either the original,
Yeah.
not in a simulation,
He's saying
or
that it leads
we're
to
in a
that.
simulation trying to figure out how to duplicate that simulation.
So again, he prepares you. He holds your hand and he prepares you to have your mind blown.
Literally held his hand.
And he
I love
didn't
it.
even make my point that you would be simulation. He did. So he made my point that you'd be simulation sigma x 5 million side words. But he then follows it through to this conclusion that since it hasn't been made yet, we're either in the first reality, which again, if you can be in a simulation, you must be. So this wouldn't be the base reality. That's what Musk says anyway. I mean, you could be any of the zillion down the line, I should think. So if you're one in a zillion, you're probably not one. You're probably the other zillion. But, I mean, he's talking about now. This is kind of, it's not a thing that you think about from now. You think about the whole time span of everything, like in this thought experiment, because it is about futuristic technology. So, like, the point that we don't have that technology yet, it's like, well, no shit. We don't have that technology yet. Gosh, I hope people didn't think we had that.
I mean, have you ever played a Bethesda game? They're buggy as shit. They're the best we've got, and they're so goddamn buggy.
Global finest.
They're hour-long videos that are just compilation of bug glitches in every one of those games. Individually, there's hundreds of hours of these games. How are we not glitching out constantly? This is very complicated. Crossing my arms because I don't even know what's fucking happening anymore. You're either the original or you're in the future in a simulation of the past trying to figure out how to create a simulation. Is that what I'm to understand here? What's the 50?
They create a simulation
you're you.
where
What's the other 50?
Wouldn't like number one about creating a simulation is like don't let them create a simulation. Make the rules so that you can't make another simulation. So that's how we're gonna find out. Is we're gonna finally
the
get
one
that
rule
tech,
of robot.
and we're gonna like try and plug someone in. She's gonna be like, nope, you can't do it. This is the simulation. No, of course we didn't let you build a simulation in the simulation, you fools.
Huh.
That would involve a lot of people that don't exist.
So this is similar to the theory that I stand behind, and everyone seems to argue with me about, is once a time machine exists, and I don't think time machines are really, it's not a machine, it's light speed. But once a time machine, like the fantastical time machine exists, it exists at all points in time. Once you make a time machine and can go back in time, backwards in time, it exists because not like the first caveman seeing the first dinosaur, and that's how aerobics were created. But, once you get back to where technology is good enough that it can create a copy of that thing, yeah, now there's more than one, and it will exponentially grow to the point where once a time machine exists, it will exist at all points in time. It's the same thought theory that's endless, and there's no dumb, there's no actual answer. But it's the same, there's not enough evidence against it to not be real. But yeah, the evidence against it is there's no fucking time machine.
Yeah, it really is. It's similar to kind of space seeding planets and guiding the development, and it's definitely that's interesting that you put it that way though. It's the same argument where you're either in the prime timeline or the one where reality is such that the machine goes back to your timeline. So this didn't happen because a time machine came and changed it. So it must not have. So that must not happen.
Right.
And so we conclude, that probably didn't happen because there's no evidence for it. Yeah, totally. Okay, now I'm caught up with us.
There's not enough. Now I'm caught up. There's not enough evidence against being in a simulation that it says it's not happening, except common fucking sense and logic.
I think the time travel one is even more realistic. I think that's even more that could happen. Probably someday we'll figure that out.
We do already at the very smallest nth of a degree. The faster we travel, the relative slower time passes for the speed of what is traveling. So astronauts come back a few minutes younger than everyone else on Earth that lived the correct timeline of Earth's orbit and spinning. So time travel exists already. It's falling asleep on a car ride. That's teleportation and time travel. It's who cares?
Yeah, so you're saying time. We know that time travel is possible because we do it a little bit.
Yeah, we don't. But we can slow it down. But the closer we travel to the speed of light, the relative time on the thing traveling quickly to the stationary things on Earth changes. That exists already. That happens.
So it's similar in that because we do a little bit of simulating, then it must simulate. We must perfect that in the future. It's because we can alter a clock by a couple seconds, we must we know we can time travel. It exists.
We could only slow it down.
But it could be there could be a mechanic where time travel is never destructive. You can't go back to the same place.
That's what I'm saying. You, Adam, could slow. You've created a machine, a fantastical machine. It shoots you up without any G-force. There's no detriment to you. Let's cut all that out, just for explanation's sake. You shoot up into the atmosphere, beyond the atmosphere, into space, limitless, no gravity, a vacuum of space, and you travel around the Earth nearly the speed of light for, in your time, 5 years. Then you land back down. I don't know the actual equation, but for argument's sake, let's say that people on Earth actually experienced 10 years. That's not the right thing, but Earth has gone 10 years. You have gone 5 years. You're not going to land again and find you because you were in the device. You didn't exist 2 times. You can't leave your own dimension to one of these multi-dimension theory things. You can't meet your other dimensional self. You've only slowed down time for yourself, which was really a detriment to you because of all of the other bad stuff that happens when you're in space so long. You're actually younger, but physically older.
Sure. I mean, we're assuming that we get better, faster crafts to do that.
That's all a fantastical thing. What I'm saying is you can't go back and change the past. No, you can't. You can only change your own perception of time passage. That's the time travel that we have now, is we can alter your time, the time you are experiencing, from the time someone else is experiencing on Earth.
That's fine, though. I mean, we could put a probe in that shit. It doesn't have to be like a human. It could sit there for 20,000 years.
I mean, if time slows down for something moving faster, the closer to the speed of light than you are on the planet, the battery would last longer. The battery. The solar
Well, I mean,
panels
it could just turn off.
work
I mean,
longer.
it could just turn off and travel to the past, or we just drop.
But to what point? Again, where's
Exactly.
the profit or benefit?
What's the? Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's clearly going to destroy things. Like it's going to change, most likely change the future that you're from. Hard to say.
You
That's
left.
a matter of opinions.
You weren't there. You were time traveling. You can't come back and change your own future because you lived it already. It's just at a different speed. You played the video at 1x. I played the video at 2x.
Oh, you're talking about going faster. Yeah. It's specifically going into the past that's problematic in this sense, and it's like you would have to accelerate the planet itself, and have your ship be sitting there waiting. You know,
The original
not true?
time machine from like 1950, whatever. That kind of got it right. His time machine sat still. And
but I mean, it went faster, right? It went. The clock was fast when it got back, right?
yeah, he sat in a relative spot, and the world changed around him. He was able to
From
create
his
this.
perspective, yeah.
Create
our
this bubble.
perspective,
I don't think
I'm
he was
pretty
able
sure
to go
that-
backwards. I don't remember
think-
that part.
Yeah, I think you go forwards when
was
you're
only
at
able
a
to go
high
forwards.
speed. If you go super fast, you'll go forward in time relative to the thing not going fast.
Right.
I believe.
I have to do my homework.
I got ready.
Go ahead.
Maybe these simulators have a side activity where they like reminiscing about days before you could simulate.
Strangers in the park, walking in the dark and reminiscing. The simulation that can't be created because it has to create more world around you as a go somehow has enough RAM left to run these side projects. You're digging a deeper hole here.
It's completely unnecessary for him to include that it's like procedurally generated, that it's not just like the whole world sits here because we have all the power to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if there was any fog of war or whatever, we would detect that. We specifically look for that sort of thing, geospatial anomalies on our planet. So you get mystery houses.
Like the cloudy area on like World of Warcraft map. Just haven't been there yet. We would go there if possible.
So now we're
It's like
Donkey
you shoot
Kong.
a gun and it just falls.
Right.
We're classic. Classic gameplay.
So maybe we're just entertainment, like a historical exercise.
Right.
That's possible in principle. However, let's look at our own conduct with that regard.
Okay.
I think of a movie as a
let's.
simulation, just for the sake of
Which
this
it kinda is.
conversation, which it kind of
Kinda is.
Ask yourself,
Okay.
how many movies have been made in a time before we ever knew how to make movies? Relative to movies made in the era where we know how to make movies.
You want to answer that?
I don't see where he's going with this.
How many movies did we make before we were able to make movies? Well, that'd be
Right.
zero.
I mean,
how many
well-
movies have we made since discovery of how to make movies? Well, that would be all of them. Okay.
Okay.
I don't see where he's going with this.
He didn't need to slap the other guy's arm to fucking make that point, did he?
No.
You can do the numbers. It's small.
Oh,
yes,
sure.
the Spartacus, the OK Corral.
Three Musketeers.
He's saying that movies were created before we could make movies, and it's Spartacus.
He's fucking hatcheting the other guy's shoulder while listing movies. Like, did you ever think about it? Blazing Saddles, Forrest Gump. It's like, get the fuck off me, dude.
I'm going to rewind a little bit because he's completely lost me here. Think about a time before you could make movies. How many were made? Well, there's Spartacus. Well, no, it was made. What the
Ask yourself,
Okay.
how many movies have been made in a time before we ever knew how to make movies?
It's zero.
Relative to movies made in the era where we know how to make movies.
All of them.
You can do the numbers. It's small.
Oh,
yes,
sure.
the Spartacus.
It's zero.
There's the OK Corral.
Three Musketeers.
This is after creation.
Those exist.
That type of stuff.
Okay?
Okay.
If we are any
okay.
measure,
Did you get it? Because I'm still.
He's saying this is a period piece. The point he's making is a really small point. It's just that this is a period piece. We're in the past of
the simulation is in the past, right?
This is a cowboy movie. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's all he's saying. That's all he's saying with all of his big energy. He's
So he was
establishing
saying-
the genre.
Movies made where the timeline of the topic of the movie was pre-movies being made.
Yeah.
That's why he lists Spartacus and
That's
the
the
old
whole-
movies where you can't make a movie in this movie because it doesn't exist.
Isn't that crazy? It's such like a, you don't need to make this point that we're confused. Like, of course nobody made movies, and like, yeah, of course movies are made about other times. You maniac.
I see what he's trying to bring it back to. The simulation is of a time before simulation.
Yeah.
So we are in a Spartacus movie, which was made by a simulation, but simulations can't be made in our movie.
And also, this could just be some random crap some guy came up with, or some woman came up with. This doesn't have to be modeled after base reality at all. This is not a rule. Nobody said that. This could be just this weird thing. They're like, well, we could do it this way. Okay, let's do it. That's kind of like base reality.
Why would they do it though?
Why would they do any of it?
What's the point? What's the fucking,
none of it has
what's
a point.
your point?
Which is why it didn't happen.
All right.
Of the incentives of creating simulations,
Which
all we can do with movies at this point.
Reality.
Here we go.
Then they might have some historical thing, but there's way more interesting things and stories to tell in the era of simulations that exist post-simulation.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
So even if there are some period pieces that we might be,
I don't think he's grabbing his arm out of excitement. If you watched that grab,
He's really all up in him.
he's grabbing his arm to shut him up so he can finish talking.
I know.
To your
He
point.
totally is.
It's like a hold on, let me finish. Grab your arm. It's not like a I'm so excited. I like need some tactile.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So even
Shut
if
up.
there are some period pieces that we might be, still most of these would be universes made after they could simulate themselves.
Right.
If our movie making habits are any indication of anything.
So the chances are we're not a little offshoot.
The point that he wants to make about simulation theory is that science fiction is better than historical fiction.
Yeah.
Oh, and that contradicts that we're living in a period piece.
Yes.
All right, great.
He's lending credence to we're not in a simulation. What would be the point
that's
of
fair.
making it? What would be the point of making a simulation pre-simulation when post simulation stuff is way cooler? I'm happy that you're coming around to his point now that he's not in a simulation. I'm unhappy with the thought that perception of modern reality is cooler than perception of pre or post reality.
Yeah, right. That's a value. I mean, I think most people probably it's probably a small majority of people are more into the future than the past.
So it's that thought experiment everyone has had at a bar. Like, okay, no, listen. I put my hand on your arm to get you to shut up. If you could go to any time, when would you want to live? Like the only pricks like myself would say right now. Everyone else is going to say a different time. And he's saying right now that the whatever created this simulation would say right now. That's when you should live.
And most of the stories they're going to simulate are going to be the ones that that are in the era of the time they could simulate themselves.
Notice the popularity of reboots. This is because I am 20 years older than the 90s. And so we pulled
30.
90. So probably if we're following this logic, in the simulation building occurs in like 20 years.
Okay.
When kids that are being born right now are getting disillusioned with life, and they go, "Oh God, how do I go back to the 2020s when everything was so simple?" And then they create a simulation of the entire universe.
But when playing SimCity 3000, you put natural disasters on. It's just you're just
100%.
spelling. Yeah, you're just spelling your own doom.
We're probably either the first or we're on our way to being the next.
On our way to being the next. That's correct.
One or the other.
That's more likely than any other possibility here.
Wow.
And so I can now rest well at night.
So no simulation.
Yeah, I'm good.
Why would it trouble you?
I think we're good.
Why would it have any effect on you at all? It really doesn't affect your life. Like, this is the moral part of it. It's like
Whether it is a simulation or whether it isn't doesn't affect
doesn't matter
you.
at all. It's the same thing either way.
If you're in such a simulation that's so inconceivably the same as not being in a simulation, who gives a shit then?
The only thing where it does have a positive moral effect is the religious perspective, where it's like, Well, okay, so we're in a simulation, so it must be trying to do something, and so the things I do must matter. And so I'm assuming that the things that I think are probably good things are the rules of the game. You're supposed to do good things in order to win the simulation, to make it more fun and challenging. You're a good person.
Right.
That's kind of religion. Or we're just like bored with the future and we want to go back and relive the glory days before we made a simulation. Well, gee, you know, if it was so much better before the simulation, maybe we could just not do the simulation. That's definitely... If it's so bad. All right. Okay, that's enough.
That was the thing I was saying, the morality of the third party who's plugging you in. Are they taking you out of something that's so terrible that living life in 2025 is better?
It becomes moral to the extent that the base reality wants something out of us or doesn't want something out of us. In either case, that's morally problematic.
Why are we not cognizant of not being in the simulation? What would be the benefit of erasing your mind?
Yeah. You'd think that would be kind of relieving. No,
everyone gets entered at like the age of 2. No one has memories before the age of 2. And if you do, it's the Mandela effect. It's manufactured memories. No, you don't.
That's when the simulation thetans come into the body, is at 2.
Yeah.
Sim thetans.
I see what you did there.
I would call that a relatively inoffensive Neil deGrasse presentation. I would say
is it because we watched it together and you weren't able to stew on your own things?
No. It was because the other person wasn't scared, and because he was in his wheelhouse a little bit. I mean,
because he signed off.
I'm
pretty sure this is his show now. I had some doubts in the beginning. Chuck was the other guy's name. I don't know his last name. Very, very thing. But he signed off, so Star Talk must be his thing. I've never seen another episode. Never had one lesson.
I just mean in terms of like, if the topic is really within his expertise.
I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Yeah. That's essential. You know what? I think I'll just shake the tree a little too, you know?
While you're editing this, I do want to point out that the arm of your little avatar back there is perfectly leaning against your chair, as if it's holding it for you.
Hey, are you pretty sure that it's cutting to us when we talk and we're watching a video?
No, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure it's the whole video.
Really?
We'll see, but I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure, dude.
Oof. Okay. How can we fix that? Because I don't want to. I wouldn't want to release it if it's just like us talking with the video paused. I feel like that's. It's close to being okay, but it's just a little.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you liked what we put together today. We wanted to try responding to some videos, and we hope you liked the format. We're trying to keep it fun.
Let us know in the comments whether you loved it or hated it.
Was the ulcer something that developed later on?
You froze so hard.
Oh. All right. Thank you for joining the show. I've got one more for you. What do you call a grandmother who smokes too much cigarettes?
I don't know. What do you call a grandmother that smokes too much cigarettes?
What do you call that smokes? I don't remember. I don't remember how this joke goes. I'm sorry.
Like and subscribe. Join us on Discord for some gentle conversation. And we'll see you next time on Unthink Me. Time to hit that old D trail.
Stay for the joy. I've been Larry King, and I'm a maple bar.
I've been James Gonzalez. Trust me.
I'm gonna be dead.
Eventually. Oh.
Gonna be dead.